now we will get started on food truck finance. So here we should meet our folks here. So I know that we had talked about Denise and Nancy here. I'm going to give them a moment to talk a little bit about what they do, but my name is Lily. I've been with you all day. I'm from New York City. I lead the Intuit food truck program as well as our Intuit for Education partnerships. And so I work with districts all around the country to donate a food truck that students can use to run as a real business. I'll tell you a little bit more about that in the next couple slides. But I'm going to go to Denise real quick. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, everybody. I've been chatting with many of you in the chat today, and I've been working with Lily for the last couple of years on the food truck program, but I've been with Intuit for over 15 years in various different community-based initiatives of theirs. I started my career as an educator, so I love being in sessions like today, and I look forward to working with any of you in the future.
And Nancy? I don't know if Nancy's still here. Okay, well, Nancy works with our districts. Some of you were asking around the resources, around PD, around CTE alignment. Nancy actually helped us build the entire CTE alignment. So if you have questions around that, she's a great resource. She had dropped her email in the chat, and we'll have it for you all at the end as
well. Thanks, Lily.
Oh, there you are, Nancy. Do you want to say anything? You're good. Awesome. All right, so the Intuit Food Truck Program is designed to engage students as authentically as possible in managing and operating a food truck business. And so we're helping them not only to build up their culinary skills, but their technical, their entrepreneurial, and their durable skills, along with financial literacy and entrepreneurial finance. And this is real world. They are literally running a business. They are in the truck, they are cooking, they are collecting payments, they are tracking those payments, they're tracking their expenses. And so by providing students with this opportunity where they're doing and implementing what they're learning in the classroom, we're hoping to support the next generation of small business owners and entrepreneurs. And so some of you have seen already, we've posted a links to our food truck curriculum. You'll note that it says it is for food truck districts who already have a food truck, only because it's really focused on doing those things real world. It's not exactly simulated, except for the lesson that we shared with you that Nifty helped us build. And so the program launched in 2023. To date, we have donated 11 food trucks across 10 school districts. We have a couple more coming in the next year. And so in order to receive a food truck, you have to apply for the program. And so if you go to intuit.com/food truck, you should be able to see details around the program and be able to see how to apply. I've seen some questions around it. It is required that the district applies along with a really excited school or multiple schools and educators. It takes a village to launch a business. It takes everyone to really be invested and want to run this business. It is not easy. So many of you have shared that you already have your own entrepreneurial venture. Think about this, but with 30 to 500 high school students trying to work on this business, right? And so it does require district alignment along with schools and educators that want to take this project on. And Intuit has been donating between 2 and 3 food trucks a year. And so the way that we do this is we accept applications on a rolling basis, and then we have a review process that happens in the fall or in the spring. And usually we review those and we select a couple of districts to do interviews and then select them for donation. It is a pretty competitive program, as you can imagine. And so we do our best to try and think through, which districts are really going to take and run with this, work on getting your health inspection, truly running it as a business. And then how are you incorporating all of the tools and resources that Intuit offers? And so with the donation of the food truck, there is also an operating grant that is shared with districts, and then free QuickBooks and MailChimp so that the students can learn to use real world tools to run their business. And so here are all of the current food trucks that are on the road, as well as those that are coming soon. And you can kind of see that there's some presence really closely to where we have Intuit offices, but also some that are nowhere near an Intuit office. And so we have some really great districts that have submitted applications that have been wonderful to read and understand and have been doing really great with the program. I see Chef Keo here kind of sharing. They were our latest launch in DeKalb, and we've got Broward County Public Schools coming in September and working on New York City and Philadelphia in the next year. And so if you are interested in applying, our current cycle is open. You can submit your application on a rolling basis, and we will be doing reviews in the middle of fall and reaching out to districts for interviews then. All right. So I know that not everyone can have a food truck. And so one of the things that we've been working on is, well, if you don't have a food truck, what can you still bring into the classroom that helps students think about money, helps students think about what they need to actually run a business? I know some of you were talking about operating costs. Some of you were talking about startup costs and expenses, right? And how do you differentiate those? While we have our entrepreneurial finance course on Intuit for Education, we also have some activities if you just want students to get a taste of different conversations around finances. Kind of talked about this in the beginning when you all were exploring the page. So I want to have a quick check-in because not all of you teach culinary, not all of you teach hospitality management or business, but tell me a little bit about what does talking about money look like in your classroom, right? What does financially ready look like for your students who are graduating with certifications, who are graduating looking to enter the workforce? And then what money question have you received that you weren't expecting in your class? Would love to see some of these responses in the chat. Oh, will you teach us about taxes? Well, there's a simulation for that. That's awesome. How to invest and grow their money. I'm going to be honest, and I'm learning that too at this age. So it is really great that they're thinking about it right now and they're starting to understand that. And I'm wondering, what do you say when you get that, right? Generational wealth, budgeting, how to manage credit, looking for a job, right? What happens when you get your first paycheck in your job? Do you go buy the latest sneakers? Have you been saving for something? Maybe you have a savings goal and you have to do something like that. Basic accounting concepts. Okay. So this is great. Okay. So I am going to share with you 2 activities and tools that you can use in your classroom. Some of them are very food truck focused, but I'm actually going to give you the opportunity to think about your own scenarios for these as well after you see what we've prepared for you. And so we have one simulation that is with our Credit Karma calculators, right? And so some of you got to see this a little bit if you were exploring on the Intuit for Education platform. And so there are 12 food truck entrepreneurial scenarios that we've created and have students kind of play around with. I'll share 2 of them. You're actually going to do 2 of them with me right now. And then after, when all of this is posted, you'll have access to all 12 of them. There are different calculators that students can use covering debt, savings, inflation, and loans. And so understanding interest rates and how that impacts your actual payment. And then there is a QuickBooks activity as well that I'm going to share. It's more of a small game to get students a little bit comfortable with some of the terms that a business and an entrepreneur will need to know. And so you'll see Craig's landscaping, so a real company profile or a sample company profile. You'll see what the bingo card looks like. And you don't actually need to sign up for an account to be able to use that QuickBooks simulation. All right, so let's go through some of the credit scenarios. And so all 12 of them, like I said, cover one of these calculators. And so with debt repayment, some of the conversations you'll want to have after students try that calculator out is, how long is it going to take to pay off your loan? How much interest did you pay in total over that length of the loan, right? What happens if you decrease the length of time to pay, right? And having those conversations so that they understand, what does it mean to actually borrow money and pay it back, right? How does that impact your finances and your budget? And then simple loans, so monthly payment on a loan at any given time. What about savings, right? So again, I talked about, like, maybe I'm getting my first job because I want to buy a car. And what's the average price of a car? Maybe I know I want to spend no more than $5,000. And so how do I save up $5,000 in the best way possible? And like, how do I choose the right interest rate for me on different savings accounts? And then inflation, right? People have been talking a lot about inflation ever since the pandemic and all the time. So think about What does it cost? What did something cost maybe 5 years ago? And what's the impact now? We've used this with food truck students more around the cost of ingredients so that they can kind of take a look at, okay, if our budget for ingredients was this before, maybe it needs to be something else if we're going to have the same menu. And then auto loans, again, a lot of students probably when they're graduating or even while they're in school, they're thinking about a car. And so really understanding what is the cost of that. So ideally, once you're having these conversations with students, they'll be able to make more informed choices. They'll be able to budget for these kinds of expenses and calculate their monthly payments as well as understand interest rate impact. And so now I want you all to go to our calculators. So if we could drop the education.intuit.com/calculators onto the chat. And we have two scenarios here. We have the auto loan calculator. So you are a budding entrepreneur and your food truck is doing so well. And now you want to buy your second food truck. And so in order to buy that, your new food truck has a sticker price of $50,000, right? And so when you go to those calculators, you are going to find the one that says auto loan calculator. And you are going to go to that calculator and enter these details here. So you have your sticker price of $50,000. You are going to put down a $5,000 down payment and you qualify for 6% interest on a 60-month loan. So once you enter all of those details, what is your monthly payment? And remember, you have to click on the auto loan calculator. All right, great. You should have gotten 869, but it also gives you some other results, right? So you know how much money you are paying towards your principal, but you also know how much you're paying towards interest. And so one thing that I would ask students here is, okay, so if you're paying that much towards interest, what do you think about that? Is that okay? Like, what is your actual cost, right, of your truck if you're doing it with this percentage? Is there a way to lower your percentage? Is there a way to lower the payment? And see if they can play around with the numbers and see what they get. And so then the next scenario that I'm going to have you all try is with the savings calculator. And so everyone should have an emergency savings fund, right? And so if you're saving for an emergency, let's start with $1,000 goal. And so now you all are going to go back to that calculators page and you're going to go to the savings calculator. And you're going to enter this information you see here, right? So you have $1,000 is your goal. Sorry, your monthly expenses is 1,000. So your goal is 6,000 because you're trying to save for 6 months. And so you have 2%. You're going to do savings goal. That's a great question, Wanda. So there are two options when you get to the savings calculator. There's total savings amount and the monthly contribution option. You're going to go with the first one, total savings amount. You don't have a initial deposit. Your contribution, sorry, not your monthly contribution. Your savings goal, $6,000. Starting amount, 0. You plan to save for 1 year. And your interest rate is going to be 2%. And so how much do you need to contribute each month in order to get to that savings goal? Yep, $495. And then it gives you some other conversation points here too, right? So 2% is maybe one of the best interest rates you can find, but can you find an account that gives you more? And if you can't save $495, then what is your true? Then you would click over the total savings amount and go into the monthly contributions and have them budget out what they can actually save. And so those are just two examples. There are multiple examples. What I want you all to do right now is I'm going to give you a few minutes and I want you to look at all of the different calculators that are available. And some of you told me some questions that you're getting. What about credit? Have students been asking about managing their credit or savings or any of this? Can you take a look at some of those calculators and tell me which one of those you're most likely to use with your students? And think about your own scenario. What would be a scenario that you would create for your students to practice? And so I'm going to give you all about 2 minutes to do that. Here's the link again. And so these are really flexible for you all to create your own scenario similar to the ones that I've shared with you. I love that. Compound interest, budget. Great. Student loan's a big one. These are great. Yeah, car loans for sure, student loans. Anyone brave enough to share a scenario with me? I know I only gave you 2 minutes to think about it. If any of you use AI to help with some of your lesson plans or anything, this is a great prompt as well, where you could share the calculators and share what your students have been asking and have it come up with scenarios for you. All right. In the interest of time, we're going to move on to the next one. And I know in the past one, some folks had a little bit of issue accessing the QuickBooks simulator. So I'm going to give you the simulation that is on the Intuit for Education website, which is simulation/QuickBooks activity. I think Denise is going to drop it in the chat. But when you get to that link, you'll be able to open the Craig's landscaping simulation. And you will have to verify that you are not a robot. All right. Now that everyone's on there, once you verify you're not a robot, you will see on the right-hand side that there's like a specific activity your students can do. We're going to skip that for right now. And you're going to go and just look at that dashboard that you have. And so this activity really is just to get students comfortable with some of the terminology. So we have a bingo discovery challenge here. And so this will be linked also to the resource page after the conference. But when you think about all the different terminology that students need to know, right? So it's accounts receivable, right? What does AR stand for? Net profit. And can you identify net profit by month? And so if you have this worksheet for students and you have them kind of just look at the dashboard and find this information for their business and get bingo, it's just a quick little scavenger hunt to get them comfortable with using QuickBooks, with understanding different pieces of entrepreneurial finance. And then it also makes it a little bit fun because they have to get 3 in a row and then yell bingo. So we've done this at some of our food truck launches to get students excited about being able to run their business and work on this. And you can extend this and change some of those questions as well. But 3 in a row is not really that hard to get. Anyone know how much your due and overdue invoices? All right, we got 1526. What about my net profit and loss for the last month? Net profit and loss for the last month is where's the bingo? So the bingo questions are on the screen, and then here's the simulation, Craig's landscaping on QuickBooks. And then last but not least, what does P&L stand for? Profit and loss. All right. There you go. You got bingo. So really simple, really easy, and truly just an introduction to try and get them a little bit comfortable. So they're not feeling like I have never done accounting before. I have never touched anything that has to do with business finances, right? And you're just kind of getting them started on some of this terminology, on some of this, getting familiar with where things are in QuickBooks. That's why we designed this activity. And so you don't have to have a food truck for this one, but you could just have it. Juan, are you hungry? I haven't had lunch yet, so maybe peanut butter and jelly is on the menu for later. And so before we close out, I know we have some time for questions. So my question to you all right now is, how might you use these activities? I would love for you all to unmute and share with me either any credit scenarios that you thought of or how you might use these activities. And then we'll switch over for the last couple minutes for questions. Wow, you all were so chatty in the first couple of sessions.
I can share. I'm excited about using. I was just looking at the sales tax calculator because I live in Oregon where there's no sales tax, but I teach in Southwest Washington where there is sales tax. So I want my students to look through and think about like, okay, if you owned a food truck and you were traveling around and you were like touring the states and have them map out like, if we were located in Texas versus Virginia versus Maryland or whatever, and like doing the calculator that way. I think that would be interesting for them to see outside of their own local worldview.
Yeah, I love that. So they get to start thinking about it in different areas too.
I liked the tax calculator because even though they're students now and they have like no dependents and nothing, they could like plan for a future. Like if their goal is to like look up their job that they want to get, how many kids might they have? Are they going to own a home? All of those things. And they can like put it in and kind of estimate a refund or if they have to pay into the system, especially if they're going to own their own business, like how that differs. So those calculators are really cool.
Great. Juan, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to share how I could use one of those calculators. I didn't get a chance to earlier, but
Yes.
the auto loan calculator, recently my car was totaled and I needed to go find a new car. And then I was just overwhelmed with the options and the interest, the APR. And I was just thinking I need to come up with a lesson for my students. So maybe a scenario like, your car's totaled, you got a $15,000 check from your insurance company. Now you got to go out and figure out, do you want to get a brand new car, certified pre-owned, or maybe buy one from a private seller and then defend your choice, with financial literacy.
Yes, I love that. That's such a great scenario. I know some of you all also talked about taxes, and I didn't cover them here, but I'm dropping a link to all of the simulations on the Intuit for Education, and there are some taxes ones with different characters that you can use with your students as well. And these are for income taxes. And I think we had some Canada folks here. There is also a Canada version of it as well. But
Hello.
yeah, go ahead, Jacqueline.
Yes, I have a lot of students that want to be athlete. I will use the tax one because of, when they travel to different states, they have to pay that jock tax, and a lot of them not familiar with that.
Oh, yes. Okay, for students studying Excel, would love to use the calculators as examples and challenge them to recreate one of them. Oh, so have the students come up with their own calculators is great too. There is also, we have scenarios for you as well. There is also a game. I want to say it's a game that is called the Path to Good Credit. And also our finance game that you can use too. That's Credit Climber, where they get to make different decisions. And then that impacts their credit score. And so here's the link to all of the games that you can think through. I like the calculators because you can kind of think through like, oh, this student asked about this. And so then you can create a scenario specific to that, or you can have them research, right? Like I can go online and see like, what are the average mortgage rates right now? What are the average home prices right now in my community? And then figure out, or where I want to live. Maybe I want to move to a different state, and I can then plug in those numbers and kind of really understand what it costs. And like someone said here, like they understand somewhat of the concept, but not totally until they get to put it into real numbers and look at it differently. Any questions that you have for our team? This is our last session in this track right now, and then I'm going to have you all go back to the broadcast, and then we have office hours after that. But any questions that I can help answer right now?
I was hoping to get clarification on what you were saying about the food truck program itself. Are there opportunities to engage like with the grant part of the program, like beyond the curriculum part? Because we already, but not get the food truck because we already have a food truck. And I know you mentioned there was that it wasn't exactly designed for districts who already have.
So it's designed, if you're running a real food truck, you can use it.
Okay.
If you don't have a real food truck, you can pull pieces of it. For example, there is a design thinking one where they can come up with the concept of their food truck. There is also a graphic design module so that they can design the food truck wrap. There is also the branding and profitability lesson that we built with NIFC where students can think through like a pizza food truck and they can design their food truck, they can name it, and then there's their signature menu item, as well as consider carbon footprint if that's something you want to make sure your students are thinking about when they're thinking about a business. There's entrepreneurial finance as well, building sustainable menus. So there's a lot of different components of the food truck curriculum that you can pull and use in your classroom. And adapt it to what you're learning. But there isn't like a simulation where you're tracking students through that. It's more of you pulling the activities and bringing them into your classroom. And then if you have a food truck, then this kind of helps you outline, student roles and responsibilities and actually using QuickBooks for the food truck, as well as MailChimp. Like it kind of brings in a little bit more of the real world pieces. Let me give you a link direct to the Intuit food truck program curriculum. And it is only guided. It is not self-paced.
I have a question. What type of POS system do they use on the food trucks?
So with the food truck, when we donate a food truck, we also donate QuickBooks Go payment because it directly integrates with QuickBooks. And so because we donate the software for them to manage the food truck finances, we also give them that point of sale system and then an iPad for them to like manage tips and that kind of stuff. And then if for some reason Go payment isn't approved by the district, then we talk about what some of the other options may be.
And is there a training for that system? Do you all provide that for Go payment?
There is a module on using QuickBooks and the point of sale system. If you click on that link that I just put in there and you create an account, one of the modules is specifically around the point of sale system. And then there are videos that you can use as well. If you want more, then I would also recommend in tandem doing the QuickBooks certification course on Intuit for Education too. All right. Heather? I can't hear you, Heather, if you're talking. No? Okay. Anyone else? All right. Well, I hope that you all got to play around a little bit with the Intuit for Education site, see all of the resources. Oh, did you unmute, Heather?
Yeah, sorry. There's somebody at my door. Real quick, do you have anything like the food truck thing for like a school store?
No. We do not. Not to say we might not in the future, but no, we don't have anything like that. But you could probably use some of those modules for a store as well.
Okay, okay.
I have a quick question before we go. Do y'all have anything for that level, like the food truck for colleges, a small college that may want to introduce something if that district has not, wants a district in that area does not want to do a food truck?
So we have the application process. So any college can apply for that too. And then when we donate a food truck, we consider all of the applications and then select the best and that we get. So you're more than welcome to apply for a food truck donation too. I would love for Intuit to add a kiosk for a school store. Okay, we will put that in we will put that in the notes for today. All right. Well, it has been a pleasure to lead the CTE track today. Thank you all for joining us. Please head back to the main broadcast page. I think there are winners. Maybe not announced today. I think you get an email afterwards, but there's probably more that you can do to participate to be able to be one of those top winners for today's game. And then also see the closing session with some more details on how to access some of these resources if you didn't catch them here. And then if you do have additional questions, we will have office hours starting at 4 p.m. Eastern.